sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Good morning, this is Mr. Pinkley. We're going to start out today by talking about last week what we did. Our notes last week went over unruly behavior and delinquent behavior. And in looking back at that, we need to think about another name of those, although the names aren't that common. The first thing for unruly behavior, that's also known as a status offense. The name for status comes from the status being a juvenile versus an adult. And that determines what's a crime and what's not. Like we said, some things for juveniles that are considered wrong aren't considered bad behavior for an adult. Those things would be breaking curfew. There's no curfew generally for adults. Skipping school, running away from home. Those are all things that an adult wouldn't be able to do because they could do them, but they wouldn't be illegal. Another name for delinquent behavior is criminal or illegal behavior, and these things are things that are also illegal for adults to do. So this week we're going to look a little deeper into the rights of juveniles, and we're going to talk about how their rights are a little bit different than those of adults. So in fairness to juveniles, the courts realize that juveniles are different from adults. And because of this, they deserve different treatment. It should be pretty obvious that a girl or boy who is 14 years old should not be expected to be at the same level of maturity as most men or women who are 35 years old. So these are the things that the court looked at, and they realized that they deserve a little different rights, a little more protection, actually, is the way it would work. So in 1966, in the case Kent versus the United States, a 16-year-old boy in Washington, D.C. was arrested for charges connected to housebreaking, robbery, and rape. Kent was not provided counsel before a hearing was conducted to determine if he should be tried as an adult. He didn't get to have a lawyer, or they didn't consult with him or give him his legal rights the way they should have. And they decided to go ahead and try him as an adult, as an adult, and he ended up being sentenced to 30 to 90 years in prison. The Washington, D.C. Court of Appeals, remember how we talked about that in the laws in the state government, how there's a Court of Appeals? They heard the appeal and they found the conviction was fair, and they upheld that Kent should have been tried as an adult. And so they upheld the juvenile court's waiver of his right to be tried as a juvenile. So Kent didn't feel that was fair, and he said he wanted it to go further. So Kent further appealed his case to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they reversed and remanded the conviction. That means they overturned it. They made it like it never happened. The Supreme Court declared that basic fairness was not satisfied by the juvenile court's waiver to try Kent as an adult, and they had not conducted a full investigation as required by law before deciding on trying him as an adult. Although Kent was 21 years old at the time of the Supreme Court's decision, they said that because the ruling happened when he was still a juvenile and he was not fairly tried as an adult, that the conviction must be vacated. That means that it was like it never happened at all. This ruling led to the legal rights of all juveniles from that point forward to be tried as a juvenile and still have the same rights in court system as adults. The biggest difference is that the privacy of a juvenile is important and seen important for their protection. So, the rights of a juvenile. You can see here, there's several of them. You can go online and see public arrest records for adults, which include their name, photo, and more, but this is not allowed for juveniles who have committed delinquent acts or even unruly acts. Instead of getting one phone call, juveniles can get 2 phone calls. The first one's to call a parent or a guardian, and then to call a lawyer. Like adults, they have the right to remain silent and not snitch on themselves or incriminate themselves, and to protect them physically, they cannot be put in the same confinement cell with adults. But like adults, they are entitled to a fair trial, but instead of a trial by jury like adults get, there's only a judge that sits there, and the judge determines if they're guilty or not, and the judge determines what their sentence is. This is done to protect juveniles' privacy. Another big difference between juvenile and adult justice is that a juvenile is taken into custody while an adult is arrested, and the juvenile system's punishment for a juvenile focuses more on rehabilitation than punishment, while the adult punishment or confinement and everything, the emphasis more on punishment than it is rehabilitation. So those are the things that you should get from this week's notes. There's also going to be like a note-taking guide like we always do. I will have that up by the time you get this, and you should be able to go through your notes and take them. I'll try to make it like I did the last time. I'm probably going to make it more as a graded assignment just for a daily grade. That way you fill in the blank like you've been doing. And this time I'll actually grade it and return it as a grade. This way it'll help some of your grades if you do it. Even if you don't get them right, I'm going to give you 100. So you're going to get 100 for effort, and it'll help your daily grade go up, and it'll help several of you with your grades. So that said, I hope y'all enjoyed this presentation. You can still see the notes, the note source. You can see that on your Google Drive as a Google Slides presentation. And I hope y'all are safe and well, and y'all have a good day.